It's been over a year since I reviewed Zero Caliber 2 on the Meta Quest 3, and it was graphically impressive, especially for a standalone title, and it did many things right, but it also had some issues and some strange set pieces that sometimes came away feeling pretty cheap and laughable, like the unforgettable helicopter that carried an exploding barrel.
Put a fucking explosive barrel in the helicopter. Oh. That didn't look too good, did it?
But overall, I did have fun and the gun customization was very cool. So in today's video, we are deep diving into the PCVR version, and it's also coming to PSVR 2 in 2026 called Zero Caliber 2 Remastered. And after playing it, I feel it's safe to say the devs have gone all in for this new version to bring VR users ever closer to some dramatic and epic Battlefield style moments. Don't get me wrong, some of these moments were also on Quest, but with the power of PCVR, they have delivered everything with more punch and pizzazz than before, and some of these moments will definitely leave a lasting impression on you. The audio work has been taken up a notch too, adding some much needed stress to the large street battles. If it's raining or snowing, you can see this effect on your helmet, and when you're raiding a house filled by the enemy, you can hear all of them shouting threats at you from all directions, and overall, it feels like a real adrenaline rush. And if I was to describe what sort of game Zero Caliber 2 Remastered is, I would say it's an unapologetic pure alpha bro shooter on steroids. There are many moments you get locked into the action, and some of the missions can last between 20 and 40 minutes, but you're so engaged, this time actually flies by. I found myself physically crouching behind cover due to being massively outnumbered even on the veteran difficulty, which I believe is the game's default normal mode. And that's because the PCVR version throws many more NPCs at you, and if you don't keep your eye on your health, you can get down pretty quickly. It's not all sunshine and rainbows though, so before we get into the thick of this review, I want to take this opportunity to ask you guys to leave a like on the video and get subscribed for more VR content. So what's really important in a first person shooter in terms of immersion is the weapons, and I'm pleased to report the guns feel great and solid to the touch. You can eject your mags at the press of a button, physically grab the mags and pull them out, or knock out your old mags using a new one, which overall feels superb. But it can also feel a bit clunky depending on how much is going on in the game in the headset. You can carry 3 guns of any class at any time, and this sometimes makes you feel like an unstoppable war machine. Your headshots are rewarded with an audible M1 Garand style ping, and there's special weapons to find spread about in the levels, as well as presents, but I'm not sure what these do. But either way, they're pretty well hidden, but it does add some incentive to explore the levels and possibly play them again. There's also rewards for speed runs, which is cool, and of course there's varying difficulties. The weapon customization though is the real star of the show, and it is absolutely fantastic. You can create your own custom loadouts between missions or grab an enemy's gun that you can actually use, or take parts from their guns to improve your own loadout. And at the end of every mission, you're rewarded with XP that unlocks tons of new guns and add-ons, and you're also rewarded cash, and you have to spend that cash to use the weapons and add-ons you've already unlocked. The action feels gritty and the levels look varied enough to keep things visually interesting, and there's some good set pieces that force you to grab rocket launchers and grenade launchers, which is really welcome. Grenades and flashbangs feel great to throw, and pulling pins with your virtual teeth adds an extra level of badassery to the action. I did find the AI a bit hit and miss though. They can definitely get the better of you, but sometimes they just stand still or hide in plain sight. So this is a weak point for the game overall, but they are challenging mostly due to the number, but not the intelligence. My gameplay length estimation for the single player campaign is around 8 to 10 hours, and I did die quite a few times, but I was never annoyed by it because the save points are pretty forgiving and it's a fast reload to get you back into the action. In terms of graphics, you can still see the Quest version underneath all of this, and even though it's clearly a massive step up, I reckon if this was a PC developed game first versus Quest first, it would look even better. You can see the Questified graphics mostly in the environment geometry and the textures, and even on the high settings, I wouldn't say it's visually a top tier PCVR title, but at times it's very close, and there's moments that do look spectacular, and a number of times it gave me Killzone vibes. There's a nice variety of levels, and unlike on Quest where I said the first 2 levels were the best, I actually found at least 5 levels throughout my playtime that were really exciting and tough, and I would definitely play them again with a friend in co-op. The new and improved blood effects unfortunately do still look a bit cheap, but they've also added some extra effects like the blood being splattered on walls, and you'll also see extra debris flying up in the air and sand falling out of sandbags, and overall it's visually pleasing, and calling it a remaster of the Quest version is in fact the best way to put it. The colours on the PCVR version look much more pronounced as well versus the Quest version, and I played this using my Quest 3 and PSVR 2 with PCVR for this review, and I found the super smooth frame rate was a real highlight compared to the Quest. The haptics are excellent and every gun feels great to shoot and can easily be played standing or seated. So now on to probably the biggest negative out of all of this, and that's Zero Caliber 2's story. Even games like Double Dragon or Final Fight that saw you fight your way to save your kidnapped girlfriend, that gave the player a reason to fight through the campaign, is really missing in this game, and most of the time I've no real idea what's going on. The main boss appears to be a cross between Hitler and a bad guy from Killzone, and there's plenty of shouting going on between the main characters, but it's never really explored. Plus the game cuts to the end screens during the storytelling moments, making you feel like the game doesn't even care what the characters are saying, even if you wanted to. And that means the gameplay has a lot of responsibility left on its shoulders to keep the player engaged through the campaign, and this is where things can get a little bit unengaging. To keep playing I had to take a few breaks because you can and will get shooting fatigue, because without a reason to keep playing, all that's left is the action. Don't get me wrong, this game definitely delivers on that front, but there's also times you start to feel it's a little bit of a grind, especially on certain missions, so I found this game is best played in 2 to 3 hour stints. The game does support co-op, which I think I mentioned earlier, and this will definitely alleviate that feeling, but playing on solo can feel like a slog at times. The Alpha Bro dialogue is a tiny bit cringe, but it does make you smile, so it's a shame the story is so weak, because there's moments in the game you actually do feel like you're part of something bigger. But even after 6 hours of playing, I still wasn't sure if I should care about what's even going on. So the only thing really driving you is the point-to-point missions during each campaign. The vanishing and exploding helicopter scene from the Quest version appears to be erased completely and is now replaced by blowing up anti-air guns. So what we're left with is a well above average first-person shooter for PCVR. The lack of an engaging story is balanced out by over-the-top and satisfying action, thanks to some great set pieces, but it can feel repetitive. Overall though, I can't help but say I've really enjoyed my time with Zero Caliber 2 Remastered, and therefore I do give it a buy recommendation. I also want to take this opportunity to urge the developers, if they want their next game to be taken seriously and move up to the next level, they need a decent scriptwriter and get some decent voice actors involved. The groundwork is here for something special, and the end result is a great VR indie game full of action and one of the most satisfying first-person VR shooters I've played in a long time. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.